Guys, we got to dive into a show now. We'll get into our first topic. It's brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Tyvis, we'll start with the Hall of Famer on this topic.
He's not a Hall of Famer yet.
He's got to make it to the ceremony.
Future Hall of Famer, yeah.
You were not here yesterday when we discussed what Shedeur Sanders did against Tennessee on Sunday, Tyvis. Obviously, the stats speak for themselves. 364 yards, 4 total touchdowns. In this Kevin Stefanski tenure dating back to 2020, Ty, is this one of the 3 best, if not higher, best quarterback performances the Browns have gotten?
Man, when you put this in the thing, it really made me start thinking about it. So obviously you got Joe Flacco that's had some really good games, a Baker Mayfield game. The Deshaun Watson Baltimore game comes to mind. The Baker Mayfield against the Chargers in, I don't know, that was 21. Can't remember. It was a shootout. That was a good game. Cincinnati, Baker after the Odell situation. But this has been one of the rare moments where I guess it's because of who he is and everything that he's done to get to this point that makes it really extra special for me. I definitely have it as a top 3 quarterback performance. I know that they didn't get the win. Obviously, that would solidify it as probably the top spot. But Shedeur, to think about a guy who fell in the draft, came in, got no first-team reps, was with the 4s, didn't say anything. That nobody. It was such a big deal, but never him. If you asked him about it, he was just extremely grateful for the opportunity. This is a guy that's literally went around the city of Cleveland and spoke to kids. I remember it was some kids that came up there. He did TikTok videos with the kids and all of those things. Just like a real, genuine, humble dude. And to see him get that moment, and go up against his buddy who he was coming out in the draft with. They had their little friendly competition to outduel the #1 pick of the draft. Like, when you factor all of that into it, yeah, that was definitely one of the top 3 Browns quarterback performances that we've seen. I mean, for the first time, we had hope. I remember Bull saying this after the Baltimore game where he was like, Shedeur was playing, he wasn't playing well, but even in that last 2-minute drive, I had hope. It was something like, it's something there. Like, I feel like he might be able to do this thing. And to be down 14 points and watch a guy bring his team back and to see the enthusiasm on offense, like they've been kind of down this entire year. And the way he rises the play of everybody around him, and particularly those young guys, I don't see how you could say it's not one of the best quarterback performances that we've seen over the Stefanski era.
Yeah, man.
Yes, and I know Jameis threw for 497 yards against Denver.
Yeah, but Jameis Winston,
they lost.
And Jameis Winston was the #1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I went back and I looked at it. Baker Mayfield had a really good game against, I think, the Cincinnati Bengals after they traded Odell.
Yeah, after Odell got released.
Yeah, and he killed it that game. Deshaun Watson had a really nice game in the second half. People used to laugh at us, talk about, man, it's the Deshaun Watson second half. We used to talk about that for 3 years, right? Jameis Winston threw for like 500 yards one game. That was a pretty big game as well. But in terms of the impact, in terms of the story, this by far is the most impressive performance in this Stefanski era, given what it was. When you are talking about Shedeur Sanders, you know what comes with that. And so there's a lot of pressure when you come in with people supporting you. You come in, you're the #2 most Googleable athlete in the world right now. And you just you put it on yourself. You're like, yo, I'm legendary. I remember Sean King came in here and said, now come on now, you ain't did nothing yet, you gotta be legendary. Like just calm down a little bit. But you know what I really respect from him? I respect it because he stood on business. He said, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exactly who I was when I got here. He never switched up. He still was the same guy. He was still doing the community service. He was still pulling up. He still was answering the questions. And you know what he did? He didn't start off great against Baltimore, but the thing that I can only imagine and look at is the progression. When you talk about not getting first team reps or not being in a mix, Tyvis, you know how hard it is and improbable it is to go from the fourth string quarterback to the first string quarterback. And even if you do go from the fourth string quarterback to the first string quarterback, you need to play in a way that is almost otherworldly because it's the end of the season, the weather is bad, your main starters is out of the game, you're injured, and you playing on a bad football team. So you need to put up numbers in a bad circumstance to even give yourself a chance to get the rest of the season. Yeah. He had to put 360 up just so they'll say he's the starter the rest of the year. For me, when you tally and put everything together, it's by far the most impressive thing because of the circumstances, who he is, what's going on in Cleveland, the talent around the team, and just the improbable nature of going from fourth to first. And then when you get there, putting up them type of numbers and being able to deal with all the other stuff that comes with it. So I got to put this at number one, Bull.
All right, guys. McNuggets, I hate your guts right now because you've put me in a position
and you went last
where I'm going to, of course, get hate.
Will you read the text I just sent you real quick?
Look, hey, let me give you an insight to how things work. So they give us the rundown question, right? So McNuggets picks the order, right? They're like, all right, here you go. Tyvis, get your money off. You ain't been here.
Well, you know, I was going to start with you until Tyvis became a Hall of Famer.
Right, and then we like, Bull, what's your thoughts on it at the end? What do you got here? Now, you know Bull been looking through his Rolodex. You actually took this one serious, too. You got stats and numbers and everything.
Just read the last text I sent you is being a good producer
is knowing
what they're going to say before they say it.
Of course, this
Let
is
it
not
go.
one of the top 10.
Let it go. What is? Give us the ones that you got above.
Baker had 5, 6, 7 games that were better than this. Let's be honest.
Let me see. You got the numbers?
You got to win. First of all, they didn't lose because of him, obviously. But how could I say the game? If we're just going by numbers purely,
we're not.
Well, it's not the top 3.
We're not.
If you're going by other things, then I got to factor in. They lost to the worst team in football. I don't say that to be negative about Shedeur. I say it because it's a fact.
So which game you got hired against?
I think that for me and G, we're thinking about the entire process that led to this whole thing. Like when you factor in you think about Baker, he was the number 1 pick in the draft. You think about
but when he came into that game against the Jets, for example, he didn't put up big stats.
Not at all.
But the Browns had lost how many games in a row when he came in that game in the middle of the game?
It was a lot.
And he electrified the crowd.
18,
and they won that game. He's got multiple games. There was one game against the Bengals where he threw, I think, 5 touchdowns. It was at least 4.
Was that the
and they were back and forth at the end of the game.
Was that the post Odell? Because I mentioned that game.
Yeah, I
that's the game that I mentioned.
That's that one right there.
That's the game I mentioned.
One there.
And he was.
I didn't. First of all, we didn't say it. I didn't say it was number 1. I said it was a top 3 performance.
It's not a top 3 performance.
It is.
Like you're factoring all these other things, which to me, I don't know what that has to do with his performance.
A lot.
You know why? You know why you have to factor everything in? Because when you have to factor in at the context of what was going on at the time, the reason why the Baker Mayfield performance was so crazy was because, once again, the fan base was split. Odell got released and a bunch of people was mad. And then a lot of people said, great, Baker was here. We don't even need Odell. Yeah. And so Baker comes out and answers with a performance like that with 5 touchdowns.
Baker had a lot of good games. I'm not going to go step by step through every one.
His best one real quick because we haven't mentioned it yet. You guys, someone mentioned the Titans game.
Yeah.
I think personally that's
he won a playoff game.
Well, I'm saying Baker's best statistical performance in a game that mattered. 334, 4 touchdowns, no picks in a 41-35
win. And by the way, the Titans
hell of a game.
The Titans had an 8-3 record at the time, 7-4.
Titans were good that year.
Yeah. No, it was a nice performance. But you're saying you got to put all the context, but there's also context of they lost. There's context of the Titans stink. Mm-hmm. There's context.
So
there is other context too, Tyvis.
But
you know this.
I agree with you.
Because and ain't going to make me negate some of what he did, and I hate this. But, the 3rd touchdown they got, The Titans were playing prevent defense on that drive.
What third? Which one?
When they were down 14 with 5 minutes to go.
They was playing cover 4. They weren't playing prevent
What
defense.
was they? Well, who scored? When you talking when he ran it in?
No, not the touchdown itself, but as part of that drive that added up the numbers.
I mean, but here's.
I don't want to do this, guys. I don't want to.
I don't want to
because
do this.
I think what Shedeur Sanders did, considering the circumstances. Now, I think we're blowing the circumstances out of proportion a little bit because he's not the only quarterback in the history of the league that was drafted late and put in a tricky spot.
But
now, there's a lot of talk about him, but you keep saying, gee, well, we can't control that stuff. He can't worry about that stuff. Okay, well, then I can't factor that in there. Yes, I think I said yesterday, either here on my podcast, that Shedeur has more pressure on him than any late round quarterback ever drafted, probably. But there's other quarterbacks that have gotten an opportunity that were late round picks. They were also in situations often where if they didn't hit right away, they were going to be gone.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Can I factor this in?
Yeah.
Can we factor in the fact that 3/5 of his line was gone?
Hey, I factor in everything.
4.
I said
Poach just went out too. Poach is done for the season.
Well,
but that's the 3.
Well, you're including the left tackle, but he's been a back. He's been playing for a while.
I wasn't even thinking about him.
Listen, all these things factor into why I gave him an A for his performance. I was extremely impressed by what he did. I think it was the best performance by a Browns quarterback this season.
I don't know. Because we sat up here multiple times and said that this is one of the worst supporting casts of offensive weapons.
And that it all factors in.
But you can't say who was Baker's receivers at the time? And at that time, the line was one of the best in the league.
But Baker also had some wins over good teams.
I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Well, the Browns are
so for you, the end all be all is the fact that they lost the game.
That's not the end all be all. Even if they had won the game, I wouldn't have it top 3 because it wasn't. If you watch the game as a whole, and we're being fair about it, and I don't think many people are being fair about this situation. When you look at that game, it was a really good game by Shedeur, but you don't look at it as like an all-time game.
But
if you factor in he's a rookie and all these things, yes, it's crazy impressive what he did. But if we're talking about the best performance, well, then I can't make the rookie factor in there anymore. You can't say, well, it's the best performance by a rookie in the Stefanski era. Of course it is.
By the way, here's why.
Yes.
The stats point to is not just one of the best performances in the Stefanski era. It's one of the best performances in the modern Super Bowl era. That's the thing.
I'm with you on the not the best. It ain't top 3 though.
No.
And watch
top
this.
5?
And watch this. Let me give you this.
Maybe top 10.
Let me give you this.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that when I was looking at it, they sent me a question. I said, okay, well, let me go in here and play devil's advocate and try to poke holes in my argument.
Yeah.
But then I said, hold on. So the fifth round argument, right? So that we talked about for weeks and years about the 5th round pick.
Yeah.
And how you can't bank on a 5th round pick being a franchise quarterback. We talked about how that when, we had droves of people come on and say, guys, if Shedeur Sanders gets in the football game, it's going to be worse.
Okay.
He got in the football game and threw for an historic amount of yards. And we was just talking about, could he take the snap? Could he get out of the huddle? Does he know the verbiage? And then I looked it up and I said, let me figure this into. I wanted to find out in a rookie season, has anybody, I said, forget the 5th round. Let me go to the 3rd and 4th round. Has there ever been a 3rd or 4th round quarterback, anything past 3rd, who has ever thrown for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in a rookie season, and it has never been done? That just goes to show you that type of performance has not been done, and he did it. And as a matter of fact,
we're not comparing just rookies, G. But the question is not was it the best rookie performance?
But you have to take in context. See, here's
the problem. Here's what you're doing. You're only taking into context the things that lift him up, and you're disregarding the things in context that bring it down.
So what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is there is nothing that can bring it down. Like, because here's the thing.
What do you mean? The fact that they lost, the fact that it's the Titans, that doesn't bring it down at all?
No. But we're saying the reason they lost the game is because that dude at the bottom right there, Kevin Stefanski, that's also part of the context.
Right. We don't know they would have won.
But listen, but here's the thing. Shedeur Sanders put up that type of game.
Yeah.
Inexplicably. The whole world is like, he was playing great and you took him off the field?
Right. And nobody would have said that about any other quarterback, by the way.
If Joe Burrow was, if the Bengals was going down to score and they took Joe Burrow out, you would blow your TV up.
I would.
Bull, let me ask you this, Bull, because this plays off your point. Remember Mike White, Bull?
What's that?
Remember Mike White?
Yeah.
Who is Mike? That's the quarterback for the Jets.
And the Dolphins.
Mike White was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
The 171st overall pick. And in his rookie year, Mike White threw for 405 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Jets beat the Bengals.
Yeah. Gee, you're wrong on that stat.
What you saying?
There have been a couple.
Guys have
Dak Prescott's done
300
it.
yards and multiple touchdowns.
What round did he get drafted?
Mike White got drafted like the 5th round.
He was a 5th round. Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. He did it. A few guys have done it.
Where'd you come up with that stat?
Davis Mills has done it.
Oh, AI lied.
AI told
Guys.
But that doesn't diminish what just happened.
But you said he was the only guy that ever did it, and he's not.
Okay, well here's what I'll do. I'll just go to the biggest one. We'll forget the rookie one. He just did something that only Joe Burrow did. 350, 3 touchdowns, and since the Super Bowl era. That is bona fide.
Didn't you say Mike White did that?
No. 300.
Mike White did not rush for a touchdown.
There you go.
Oh, 3 passes.
350 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown.
Did Mike White throw 4 touchdowns?
Mike White threw for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Okay. Guys, we have to stop this.
What do we stop?
You know this is not a top 3 better than. Are you telling me this is better than only? This is better. This performance in this game is better than all of Baker Mayfield's performances. Come on, guys.
I didn't say all of them.
Say that.
You said it was number 1.
I'm about to say stop. I didn't say that.
Listen, I
literally named.
I named 3 Baker Mayfield performances.
Yeah.
That are great. The Titans game is great. I thought he played really well against not too much at the end, but he played really well against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoff game.
Yeah.
I thought he did a really nice job against the Bengals. There's multiple games where Baker even threw for 374, I think, in a game, right? I think he threw for 370 something. But here's what I'm calculating, Bull. All I'm saying is that this dude did not receive no reps.
Nobody else does. No other fifth does. You know that.
But here's
you can't make that seem like that's unique.
Hold on. But here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is, for you to come in your 3rd start, not the first or the
What was Mike White's start? How many games did he start when he threw that 400-yarder?
I need a sec to look that up, but I can find it for you.
For that to be your 3rd start. Not only to do that, but the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward was right on the other sideline. He grossly outpaid him.
So that's irrelevant. What does that have to do with
Mike White did that in his 2nd start.
In his 2nd start, Mike White.
Actually, technically his 1st. He came in relief the week before, and that was his 1st start.
It's irrelevant because this is the Stefanski era. This is the Browns era.
What we're saying here is this. Taking into consideration what it is. Let's not act like Mike White is Shedeur Sanders and Mike White got the same type of expectation.
Well, you brought this up.
You
said it was a stat that he was the only one that did.
Well, listen.
I just want to know, why can't we factor in the rookie part?
You can factor in whatever you want to factor in whatever. All I know is that if any other, if this were any other rookie quarterback period, we wouldn't be talking about it as a top 3 start of all time if the quarterback had lost.
We only talk about
some people, and you know I'm not one of these people, will be looking to pick at Shedeur, correct?
Yeah.
And that is absolutely true. There are people doing that.
All the time.
You know damn well I'm not one of those people.
I didn't say you was.
Now, on the other hand, we're seeing that from the other side too, where everything he does is the greatest ever, the best ever, and that's not realistic.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
People got mad at me yesterday. I gave him the highest grade. Hold on, let me just finish. I gave him the highest grade for his performance.
You misspoke on your podcast.
I gave him a higher grade than G. Bush did for his performance. And a bunch of people were mad in the chat because I said he wasn't perfect in the game.
Oh, well, he wasn't.
And of course he wasn't. Nobody's perfect.
He wasn't perfect. And it was a terrible pick.
Because I said he wasn't perfect. That's what we're dealing with.
They didn't say that. They didn't say that.
But you shouldn't, like, that's irrelevant.
Well,
they wouldn't mad at you.
I hear, fine.
Fans are going to say stuff.
But my point is,
it's probably the way you said it.
It's not just fans. We're getting this from some media members, and the people that have entrenched themselves on both sides of this are being unrealistic and unfair.
Okay, so all I will say is I'll give you this. Here's what happens, and this is human nature. McNuggets. Here's what happens when you have media members, right? And the media is their own worst enemy in some of this stuff.
You're a member of the media.
Yeah, but listen, I do things that ain't. I'm a rogue agent. See? Let's keep it real.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Let me keep it real. So when you got people, and this happens on UCSS, when people say that when they looked at Dylan Gabriel's game and they said, well, Dylan Gabriel, right now he's playing poorly. But if Shedeur Sanders would get in the game, guys, it would be even worse. It would be even worse.
Who said that?
Ross Tucker said that. Adidas said that. Mary Kay said that. Tony Grossi said that.
I don't think Mary Kay said that. I know for a fact Ross said it.
No.
Mary Kay said that?
Yeah, she said, listen.
She did a whole article about how she wanted him to play.
Listen,
I can't be held accountable, and other people shouldn't be held accountable for what other people say.
But what I'm saying, though, is I'm not saying you being held accountable for it. Yeah. I'm saying why people are pushing back so much is if you heard that for 6 months and you saw, well, Dylan Gabriel is more ready. Guys, he's just more ready. Guys, he's more ready. Anthony Lyman had to come out and say, I feel lied to. Albert Breer and the Browns kept telling me, hold on, I'm just getting to it. Albert Breer and the Browns told me that this guy was ready. And now we look dumb because now this guy comes out here and throws for this many yards and you told us the whole time Dylan was better?
So the Browns were clearly trying to tell people, the Browns didn't say it publicly, but the Browns clearly were telling people behind the scenes that Shedeur Sanders was not ready to play. And clearly, they are wrong.
Yes.
And Kevin Stefanski looks like a fool right now, in my opinion.
That's it. That's it.
Okay?
That's it. That was all we want. That was right there.
But again, that has nothing to do with was it a top 3 performance in the Stefanski era. And it just wasn't.
It's okay, boo.
And that doesn't mean it wasn't good.
It's okay. You can
if you say was it here's where I'll tell you it was the best performance.
Okay.
In the Stefanski era. If you say rank every performance by a Browns quarterback since Kevin Stefanski's been here and how they did compared to what you thought they would do or what everybody thought they would do, this would be number 1. How about that?
No, I like that.
It's like the coach of the year.
That's probably
It's like
true.
The coach of the year, right? Was Kevin Stefanski the best coach in the NFL?
Probably not.
No, but his team was way better than expected. That's why he wins coach of the year. This is not one of the 3 best performances by a Browns quarterback since Stefanski, but it's the most. I can only speak for myself. It's the best performance compared to what I expected from any Browns quarterback since the Stefanski.
You know what?
That I would say.
You know what? I also think that the rookie part plays a factor because we've seen rookies come in there and what they look like.
Right.
So, like, our expectations for rookie quarterbacks under Kevin Stefanski.
Hideous.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, when you factor that part in,
right.
A lot of people was like, yeah, I never thought he would do this.
And again.
So, I would agree with you on that part.
And by the way, I just realized that one of the games I was talking about with Baker was not, his first game ever was not Stefanski. So.
No, it was
if you say best performance compared to what I expected, I'd put it number 1. Best performance by a rookie in the Stefanski era, I would put it number 1. But best performance period, no.
See, I like where we came to a resolution. And by the way, AI, listen, you be messing up so bad now. I don't know if I got to get the paid version for this, but your stats is out of crazy. And I see why Jay be getting it wrong because he be putting that AI stuff in here too. No more for you.
And by the way, let me say one last thing about this.
I'll find the stats for you. Just text me.
Let me say one last thing about this. If you go over the top about Baker's performance, about Shedeur's performance this week, then when he played, first of all, what I saw him do, considering all the circumstances, both ways, but there were more things working against him than working for him in this game. If you say this is the all-time performance, this is this and that, well, that doesn't leave room for him to be even better than that. And I think he could play better than he played this game.
Well, clearly, all you got to do is not throw the pick.
So the idea that this was the most magnificent, well, then what are you going to say when he really plays, if he does, a top 3